Welcome back to Sonia Poulton Live. Now, Andrea Davison is a former British intelligence agent. She's currently on the run in South America and knows that she faces imprisonment and possibly worse, in her words, if she returns to the UK. She's joined us from a secret location by Skype to tell us what she uncovered about the British establishment and why she is literally running for her life. Welcome, Andrea. I can see you up there. How are you?
I'm fine, Sonia. I'm delighted to be on your programme.
Well, I am delighted to have you because, you know, it's no mean feat, frankly. We've been trying to organise it for a little while now, and the logistics have not been fantastic. I would like to say that Andrea is, as I say, joining us from a secret location. She's actually in a cyber cafe, so we can't guarantee the exact quality of this interview, but we will do our damned best, won't we, Andrea?
We are going to do the best we can.
We certainly are. Now, tell me, we obviously talked this afternoon just to check on a few facts and things, and I'd like to start just where we said we would, and that was about your work as an intelligence agent. Tell us a little about that, the beginnings of that, would you?
Well, basically, I was investigating arms to Iraq for a very strictly military intelligence group, not actually connected with other intelligence systems in many ways, as it specified a particular agenda, which was to expose that the government was selling arms to Iraq. So this was my beginning, and it was through the investigation and the links between covert arms sales, drugs and pornography that I came to discover this systematic abuse of children on a national level. Of course, I was focusing on North Wales because I was operating in North Wales, that was my area. But I also spent a lot of time in London, and because of my work, I was chosen to go to the Labour Party, who were then in opposition, to convince them that the Conservative government were actually selling arms to Iraq. So this was how I became aware of the Leeds child abuse network.
Now, during that period of time, you became very aware of the links between drugs, arms, and paedophilia, didn't you? Can you expand on that for us, please?
Yes, that's correct. Basically, I mean, the whole thing about the paedophilia and the child pornography is so interwoven. Child pornography is an extremely lucrative business. And the people involved in it are not just perverted and are not just satisfying their perverted lusts, but many of them are also involved in a very lucrative industry, which is how they see it. And this lucrative industry of child pornography and also the child sex trade, which is equally lucrative, is linked through a criminal organisation which is ensconced within the British establishment, with key personnel in Parliament, the police, the judiciary and various civil services. It's so crucially linked together.
What did you just say? It's so crucial.
It's so crucially linked together.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And that's where your role was really key, because you suddenly became aware of all these threads coming together, because you were right in there, weren't you? You know, as intelligence, you were privy to all manner of information. And from the establishment perspective, that was where it all went a bit wrong, really, because in many respects, you were the worst person, weren't you?
I think, yes, that they did choose the wrong person from their point of view.
Yes.
To actually be at the forefront of this exposure. Because once I found out what was happening to the children, I wasn't prepared to stay quiet. But at that time, because I was the one at the forefront, and they were expecting me to liaise with the press, which I did. I started to liaise with the press, not just about Armstrong, but also about the paedophilia, and specifically in North Wales.
Right.
Which, yeah, at that time, a number of newspapers, The Independent, HTV, as in North Wales, that section of ITV was HTV, were all interested in investigating. A number of independent investigators, and also the Scallywag magazine, which has now become quite infamous, I think.
Indeed it has. Can you tell us what you knew about what was going on in North Wales?
Well, basically, when I first came to hear about it, as I say, it was linked with my investigation into arms. And I raised this issue with my own people, and they didn't encourage me at all. In fact, they really looked askance at any mention of the child abuse. Basically, it seems that investigating child abuse is incredibly dangerous. You know, you really are putting your life on the line. You can investigate arms, you can investigate drugs, but once you start investigating child abuse, you're in serious danger.
Why is that?
It appears that I'm not 100% sure, and I can only talk about what I know and not what I suspect. But I think it's because of the danger that it puts a lot of people in key positions in. It appears to be that these key people who are part of this criminal organisation are, in the majority, or a large amount of them, are also paedophiles. Right. Because of this, if you start to investigate child abuse, you're not going to bring down a government, which the Armstrong issue did bring down the last Conservative government. Right. It meant it totally discredited them. You're going to bring down key individuals who really don't care who's in power or who's in government, because they're always in a powerful position. Right. And this organisation is hugely profitable. You have drugs, arms, and pornography. It is a hugely profitable industry. It has been for a very long time. So to put those people who are in key positions in danger of being uncovered because of their paedophilia is clearly a very dangerous thing to do, as I think many victims have discovered to their cost.
Well, exactly. It's, you know, I mean, one of the things that we've learned, certainly the great British public and the world at large has learned over the last year, is about all of the kind of Jimmy Savile exposures. And people are continually horrified at how much abuse was actually going on. Now, I assume you were more than aware about these kind of people and these circles, weren't you?
Yes, I can't hear you terribly well, but I got the gist of what you said, Sonia.
Yes.
Well, having actually been come into this initially as a child myself, because I was committed to Dunkelter Crude School, and so when I the whole Jimmy close to home in many ways, and I had heard his name mentioned many times before. Are you able to still hear me, Sonia?
Yes, I can still hear you. You've just it froze for a brief second, but it's clearer now. So you'd heard Jimmy Savile's name mentioned many times before, yes?
Yes, I had. I mean, he was clearly one of the protected people, and what hasn't been brought forward or investigated is, yes, he did abuse these children. That is now accepted. What about about his connections with the police? What about his connections with the child porn
Right.
network? Where did all his money come from?
Right. What about his connections with royalty and British Parliament? I think he spent a minimum of 10 Christmases with Margaret Thatcher, didn't he? So his connections were deep, and you, as a former you know, a Secret Services agent, you would have known that these people would have been checked. You can't just let anybody mix with these people, can you?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, most of the staff in the BBC are vetted by the security services.
Right.
They're just working in the BBC. They have to be acceptable for the propaganda system. But certainly, obviously, Julie Savile was vetted, but he was vetted by key people in the organisation to which he belonged to, which is a totally criminal organisation.
Right.
So he was perfect for them. He would never be a problem. He was completely under control. He was easily blackmailable. He was clearly easy to bribe, and he was perfect for them.
Now, are you saying he was easy to bribe because, one, he was an abuser himself, but was he also, because the rumours are that he was procuring children for other people in the establishment. Are you aware of that?
I'm certainly aware of that, and that, of course, is something which happened in Wales and in other places. So it is the child sex trade, and with links in Europe also, such as the links in Holland. So yes, I mean, this is part of this trade in children, and it's totally appalling. And it is time that the cover-up was exposed. It is crucial here. Yes, we can see that all these people are colourful. Savile is colourful. It's all very colourful, and it's all very helpful. But it's what stood behind him, what kept him able to commit these crimes year after year after year without any investigation or any questioning. That's what we've got to look into. That's what real investigators have got to be able to expose.
Because that's very key to who you are, isn't it, Andrea? It's very much in your blood that you feel the need, given all the knowledge that you have accrued, to expose the system for what it is. And exactly, and one of the things that a couple of the things that you said to me, which were very key, is you want to send out the message to the wider public that these crimes are not being investigated, that children are not being protected. Will you expand on that for me, please?
It became clear, and I mean, it has been clear right from probably about the 1950s, that children have been abused systematically over years, over decades. Where is the real investigation into why and who is behind it? When are the victims going to get justice? So few of these people have been even questioned, never mind arrested or interviewed. And we really have to expose this cover-up. It's been going on for decades. I think that I saw your interview with Lenny Harper, and he expresses it very well. And he's an insider. Yes. He was in the police force. There are good people within all these organisations who are very, very well aware of this cover-up.
Right. Why do they? Why do people remain silent? Is it because they're scared, or what is the reason? Because you weren't scared, were you? You spoke out.
I spoke out, yes, but at that time I felt I was very, very protected because of my position. Now, if you're protected by your position, you can afford to speak out. But just look at what's happened to me now. They use all forms of persuasion to prevent people from speaking out, to silence people. Threats, intimidation, blackmail, you know, financial deprivation, and all types of harassment, such as being put under intensive surveillance, telephone tapping, all of this. They pull out the stops, and they have unlimited funds because those funds are supplied by the taxpayer.
Right.
The taxpayer doesn't know, but they have unlimited funds, unlimited budgets, and they use those budgets to prop up and protect this criminal organisation.
Obviously, we can't talk about your ongoing legal situation, but can you give us just a brief idea of, when you say they, you're talking really about the sort of the government, the establishment, aren't you? Just to clarify that, or at least people in key situations within the establishment. And can you just kind of,
a little bit vague there.
sorry, can you just,
I mean, the sound value, but I get the gist of what you're saying.
do you know, it's really, I have to say, it's quite funny when I see you on the screen, because you and I don't look that dissimilar in many respects. And
no,
it's quite funny, really, isn't it? And we're both fiery women, aren't we? So, what can you tell us that they did to you the moment you started truly speaking out? How was your life affected?
Oh, in the initial stages, well, I was followed 20, and all the usual things. The surveillance became extremely intensive, but of course this was in the 90s when I was actually quite important. And so what happened was I had counter surveillance, and they were protecting me, and they told me we are protecting you from the, you know, nothing is going to happen to you. Yeah.
Right.
And so I was in a very privileged position. Even then, it was a bit scary at times.
Right.
But I can just imagine what it's like if you have no protection whatsoever, and they put on this massive surveillance, and all the telephone tapping, and all the discrediting, and all the threats. It must be terrible.
You've just frozen a second. I hope that you're going to unfreeze. I sincerely do, because I'd love to carry on talking to you. Hello? Oh, just give our wonderful techies a second, and we're going to redial. Just you stay there. So let me just recap on what Andrea Davison is actually saying to us. She's saying to us quite clearly that there has been cover-ups for decades within the British establishment, certainly to do with the paedophilia, and all different forms of child abuse. She's been quite categoric that one of the reasons, certainly, why Jimmy Savile was not, revealed while he was still alive was because all of the associations that he held within the establishment, she's quite categoric that he would have been vetted quite thoroughly, even though he was allowed to get very, very close to the royal family. He was allowed to get very close to parliamentarians, including the former British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, who he spent at least 10 to 12 Christmases with at her private residence. So these are quite damning statements from, a member of the British, a former member of the British Secret Services. I do hope we can get her back, because there is so much that I'd like to discuss with her, including the information that she may have on Tony Blair, the information she may have on arms to Iraq, all manner of things, really, because, Andrea is a fascinating character, not least because she has the absolute guts to speak out where others even fear to tread. Andrea, are you back with us? Hello?
Hi, Sonia.
I can see, I'm so glad you've come back, because I've got so much more to ask you, and I'm eternally grateful for you actually having the cojones to stand up and be counted, because so few people have in this world. So just let me ask you about one of the things that, because I'd like you to clarify something for me, because it's sort of this evil triangle, isn't it? And what I'd like you to be able to clarify is where the issue of drugs, arms, and paedophilia all come together. How do they all come together?
It's really quite simple. Drugs, arms, and pornography are a huge wildly profitable industry. Because this profit, it's organised. So it's an organised criminal enterprise. And there are key people throughout the establishment who are involved in this.
Right.
So many, of course, are involved simply for the financial proceeds, plus anyone who is involved in these type of businesses, criminal businesses, are immoral.
Absolutely they are. I mean, I have a friend who says that what we have is actually a government of gangsters, and that's gone on for a long time. Tell me what you knew about the arms to Iraq, Andrea. Did you hear me?
Oh, I think I could write a few books about arms to Iraq.
Could you?
Yes, I could. Yeah. I mean, I gave evidence to Lord Justice Scott's inquiry into arms to Iraq.
Yes.
And I was also an advisor to the Trade and Industry Select Committee, which was basically looking into Project Babylon. That's the big supergun.
Right.
And other matters of the covert supply of arms. The former Conservative government were selling covertly huge amounts of arms to Iraq. But they weren't just supplying arms, they were building Saddam Hussein a military industrial base, which also included biological and chemical weapons.
Right.
So they were, the amount of money that was being made by middlemen and by bribes and corruption was immense.
How were people blackmailed when it came to paedophilia? How did that fit into the equation?
Right, there's many different levels to this, but I think probably the one you're alluding to is what we exposed in Scallywag, is that the security service was using covert photography and videos of important people sexually abusing children. It's a fantastic blackmail tool, isn't it?
Yes.
You throw a few photos on a table. Will you do what we want, or do you want this on the front page tomorrow?
It is an amazing tool, isn't it? Which suggests also that the media are complicit as well, doesn't it?
Well, in some respects, of course, they are. I mean, it's a well-known fact, it's well documented that a lot of reporters also work for the intelligence services. I mean, there's some very famous ones who have done. I mean, the Times had a lot of people who worked also for the television.
I'm sorry. Just 1 second.
Is it going?
Oh, it is. It's a funny... the thing is, it's one of those things that we're grateful to have you regardless. That's the reality of it, because it's really important to have you on here. I just dropped my H's. And, yeah, because that's the kind of girl I am.
I wish I had better reception, but...
Well, no, the thing is that it's really important to have you on here, and one of the reasons why is because I remember shortly, probably just under a year ago, somebody said to me, what has happened to Andrea Davison? Did she escape to the Ecuador embassy with Julian Assange? And that was a rumour that was whipping around about you. Is that something you had heard yourself?
Oh, absolutely. I heard it over and over again. I had people contacting me from all sorts of different newspapers trying to get my take on it, which I ignored. It is a complete fantasy. It's a complete fantasy. It was just fabricated by the Derby police. I was on an unconditional bail. I had a passport, and I left. It's as simple as that. I was never in the Ecuadorian embassy.
Right. So why won't you come back to the UK? Do you not miss it?
I think I miss the UK of 20 years ago.
Right.
Very very much, and I would like to help to make it a much more pleasant place for children, particularly, and a safe place for children and for the British people, safe from this organisation. But I couldn't possibly come back, because if I did, they would arrest me and throw me in prison, and I wouldn't be surprised if I was suicided.
Well, it's very interesting, because I believe that you were friends with Gareth Williams. Is that correct?
That's right, yes.
Gareth Williams, for the benefit...
No, I wasn't a close friend, but yes.
But you had knowledge of him, yes? Now, Gareth Williams, for the benefit of our viewers, in case you haven't realised who I'm talking about, was the gentleman that they claimed had zipped himself up in a bag and killed himself. Are you familiar with that outcome, Andrea?
I know all about it. I was devastated to hear what happened to him. He was a very, very pleasant, very sweet person, and he lived very close to me. And he worked. His father works in their power station, their rural power station, along with a lot of people who are close friends of mine. I was absolutely devastated by what they have done, and then the cover-up. They don't know who did it, please.
I mean, it sort of beggars...
We're supposed to believe that. We're supposed to believe that.
Well, that was the thing, but people do. This is what's scary, isn't it, about society, is if they read it in a newspaper, many people believe that this must be true, but it didn't even make any sense. How can somebody zip themselves up in a holdall? I mean, it was just ridiculous, wasn't it? It was beyond, but they, you know what, the establishment does things like this, doesn't it? It's like in plain sight. We will do these outrageous things that beggar belief, and we will still feed it to you as if it's fact. And you know probably more than many people how that sort of illusion is created about people's deaths. Can you tell me any knowledge that you have, obviously within the bounds of legality, of Tony Blair? Because I have to be honest, I am not a great fan of Tony Blair. I know many people have many issues with Tony Blair, who claim to be, you know, sort of a, you know, Labour PM, but in truth, you know, brought in such measures that were heinous and enabled this government to further them. Is there anything that you can tell us about your knowledge of Tony Blair?
Well, I had a personal involvement with Tony Blair when I first came to try and expose what was happening in North Wales. And I have to say that at that time, he put me in touch with, I think his name is Alan Michael, who worked with him. He was Shadow Home Secretary at that time. And I did work with him and Alan Michael to get some answers from the North Wales police, who refused to basically cooperate with anybody at that time, and the Home Secretary was Ken Clarke. So I would imagine that I was a part of Tony Blair's rise to power, not personally, but he used many tools to go up the rungs, and I think he probably used the child abuse in North Wales to help him up.
Right.
Now, I really can't say what use he made of the information that he gathered at that time, and whether it was, how useful it was to him, I don't know. But what I can say is that when he got into power, knowing the cover-up of North Wales, knowing all about the paedophiles of the Conservative Party at a high level, and knowing about other matters and paedophiles in other parties, he did absolutely nothing.
Right. In fact, was it
zero?
Yes.
Nothing.
And more than zero, didn't he also put D notices on situations surrounding Iraq. Was that not the case as well? D notices for the benefit, it's information that we won't be able to access, certainly in our lifetime. 100-year D notices. Are you aware of those?
I'm aware of them, but I have a limited input into that issue. But yeah, the whole thing about arms to Iraq then ended for me with Desert Storm in many respects. So I wasn't involved terrifically from after that time. But what everybody knew in intelligence, every man and his dog knew, is that Saddam Hussein had no weapons of mass destruction.
Right. And
everybody.
Right, and yet they hanged him publicly on TV, didn't they? Which was just, well, nothing short of an obscenity, frankly. Andrea, about a year ago, Labour MP Tom Watson stood in Parliament and addressed David Cameron and said he was aware of rumours that there was paedophile rings circling Parliament. To date, we have not had one arrest of those so-called paedophile rings circling Parliament. What do you think about that?
I caught the last bit, Sonia. Absolutely. There has been, and it's been ongoing for many, many years, and everybody knows about it. This is the most appalling thing, is that this is not a secret. It's not a secret for insiders. I think it's been well documented now about what is Ken Livingstone as well, and Edwina Curry and all these people. They all know about her.
Absolutely, and they should be held to account, shouldn't they? The truth is that they were, because I even accosted Edwina Curry on Twitter because she'd sent out this tweet about how everybody knew about Peter Morrison, who was obviously, you know, one of Margaret Thatcher's aides, and his liking of young boys. And I tweeted her and said, if everybody knew, why didn't you do something about it? Of course, she didn't reply to me because I didn't expect her to. But I then went, just for your information, Edwina, I then went and reported you to Operation U-Tree and all the other operations that were taking place because I felt you needed to be investigated. So if they tapped you on the shoulder, you know it was me who did it. So Andrea, what can we do? Because the truth is this is still occurring, isn't it? These children are still being abused. They're still being traded. There are still all of these very dodgy deals taking place. You know, what can people like you and I do to alert the public more?
Okay, right. Well, as you quite rightly say, this has not stopped. Children are greatly at risk now. Yeah, what we have to do is expose, cover up that's gone on all these years, because that is where they are vulnerable.
Right.
The truth, it's the truth. They're vulnerable to the truth, and to stop this propaganda. So it's like what you're doing now, and the People's TV. We've got to talk about the truth, not their fantasy propagandas, not their fantasies that they create. We have to let people know also that every man, woman, and even every child can do something. They can learn.
Right. They
can not be fooled by the fallacies and fantasies that these people are propagating for the sole purpose of...
You've just frozen.
Sorry, for the sole purpose of controlling them.
Yes. So it's very worrying, isn't it, though, because so many people are raised to believe that these authorities are going to protect them. So it's a bit scary to some people when we have to burst their bubble and show them that far from protecting them, who is protecting us from them? That's really the message that comes with you, isn't it? You know, we have to watch our backs from a system that is supposed to be watching us.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's like a concentration camp. You can't, a few German guards cannot control 1 million people.
Right.
those people know the truth of what's going to happen to them. People have to wake up. They have to see, because this organisation is growing in power. Look at the thousands of new laws that they've created.
Right.
They create all these new laws so that they can target anyone whenever they feel like it.
Now, something that I'd love to know more about is the fact that some people believe that power stops at government. What do you think about that suggestion?
The truth is that the organisation behind that, they can put people in power, anyone, and they can take them down. That's what they like to do. So really they're puppets. Yes, they're very powerful puppets, and they're very useful puppets. And some of them are even very closely connected and actually have real power. But governments are not where the real power lies. And I have to say that the real power lies in the people.
Right. I mean,
that's where real power should be.
Right.
And that's where the real power is.
Right. I mean, that's what we have to do, isn't it? Is that, because you see, the problem is, and we talk about it on this show, about how people have been systematically broken down and our rights are being eroded on an almost constant basis. But a lot of those so-called rights are based upon laws that are illegal in the first place, and people need to tool up on their education, don't they? That is a key starting point, isn't it?
Absolutely. And one of the crucial things is that people believe in the justice system.
Right.
The justice system is inherently corrupt. It is there to protect elites, the elite and the rich.
Right.
Very few of us get into those categories, the elite and the rich. Right. So the belief, the blanket belief, without proper investigation into the justice system, is totally foolish. Everyone needs to actually look at the truth. What sort of justice would you get in a difficult situation? And that's what they must ask themselves. Right. What justice would I get?
Right.
And
I mean, you know, the thing about the People's Voice, we very much want to be a haven for whistleblowers. We think it's really important for people who have been let down by the system, because the problem is that the system, we talked to a lady, I think the day before yesterday, about being an MOD whistleblower, and they had just trounced her life. They did everything. She even ended up in a hostel. So you know what, you know, you've already outlined what it was about, really. Go through a whole process, remove all of your security, remove your ability to support yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I could have a bit, but I know what you're saying.
Yes.
And this is what they do. They systematically, they go through a person's life and they destroy them.
Right.
They totally try to destroy them. It also has an added advantage of sort of putting other people off. Or say, do you really want to blow a whistle on this, you know? This is what's happened to this person and that person. But what we have to use, what these terrible injustices that have happened to good people who just want to tell the truth and who actually have some moral fibre and some empathy with other beings. We have to use that what has happened to them to expose the whole system, this criminal system.
Do you regret speaking out, Andrea?
I could never regret speaking out, because I couldn't live with myself.
Right. I hear you.
Yeah. You know, it's part of what you have to do, and it's also a wonderful thing to be able to help others and to support the truth.
Yes.
It's a difficult thing, but it's a wonderful thing. I sleep well at night.
Well, I could tell. Well, you look fabulous up there, frankly. You certainly don't look like a woman on the run, but I would like to say this to you. We'd love you to come back in the new year where we can start to really pick apart these issues properly, because what we've got from you today is a big overview of your knowledge, but I want to start to get into the, you know, the minutiae of this information. Would you do that for me?
Well, I'd love to, Sonia, and I'll try and get the technology sorted out.
Well, if anybody can sort out the technology, it's a former agent, frankly. So, bless you. So, thank you so much, Andrea. Thank you for taking the time out. You know, absolutely brilliant. Take good care of yourself. Merry Christmas, my darling.
And Merry Christmas to you and everybody in the UK. It's been wonderful to be on the show. Thank
you. It's been wonderful to have you. Take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Now, after the break, we discuss corporate tax avoidance with Tim Street of UK Uncut. Stay with us.